Welcome back. My goodness, 5-0. Not many times we have been able to say that. Forget this season, this decade, this millennium. Roma, they dismantle Parma 5-0. Of course, before getting into all of that, our patrons, thank you. Enjoyable afternoon, even though I know many of you had to get up at some godforsaken hour. I always think of Andy, the patrons in Australia. I can never know what time it is there. I just know that regardless of the time Roma play, it is always inconvenient for them. So I always like to give to them a shout out when there's these very unusual kickoff times. Patreon.com/RomaPress if you would like to join, get early access to episodes, and of course at RomaPress social media, YouTube, and everywhere else. We need to just step back and smell the roses, so to speak, yeah? For how shit the season has gone. I don't care if it is Parma. I don't care if it is my beloved Vicenza. I don't care if it is a Serie D side at this point. I don't care. I don't care if they are part-time electricians, Andy. 5-0 does not happen. We are so used to being on the opposite end of this, and to see Roma do it. And by the way, when Roma have these leads, typically 3-0, 4-0, very rarely do you see them continue to press down onto the gas pedal and continue to push and punish the opponent, despite having it done to them countless times. Countless times, they, for some reason, are always hesitant to do it. It was so nice to see them finally do that to Parma, who, if you looked at the table and saw that these teams are only 1 point apart, that clearly says more about Roma than it does Parma. This is not a good team. Yes, I know they are missing a lot of guys. They created very little. I would say the best chance came in the opening moments when Boni had that opportunity that went wide. Beyond that, they created very little. Meanwhile, Roma, I know they scored 3 in the second half. 80, I thought those 20 minutes were pristine. Those first 20 minutes, I think, were the best football that I've seen from Roma this season. And this is something where obviously we are happy. There has to be at least a tiny bit of bitterness there from the extent of like, this is what we expected in the summer. I said this in my post-match reaction. While I'm happy, the other part of me thinks, wow, they made today look so easy that it almost gets you somewhat annoyed, because look at how easy they
because
made it
it
look today.
sets you up
Again,
for a certain kind of expectations that then they
yes,
fail to
yes,
deliver, at least up until now. That was the case, and that was why on the last episode uh people could hear me complain and be completely disheartened at what the win over Sampdoria in the Coppa Italia could possibly mean. Because what could it possibly mean to win 4-1 in the Coppa Italia if just 2 days before you lost 2-0 to Como, right? The same applies today. Today, we are finally given a chance to breathe, to enjoy ourselves, actually enjoy ourselves. Like, think about
yes.
it. People went to the Stadio Olimpico today on a Sunday, beautiful. It's the 22nd. 2 days from now, it's going to be Christmas Eve. Everybody's lining up to get their dinners ready and stuff. So everybody's in a good mood. And Roma actually deliver on the promise of entertainment, of giving people some happiness, some much needed cheer ahead of the Christmas holidays. So today we are able to enjoy this afternoon. It's an early match, so at Stadio Olimpico the match started at 12:30. I mean, people are now going home, they're going to have lunch, and they're going to feel happy. They're going to feel like they just witnessed their team do exactly what they're supposed to do in theory, which is provide them with a sense of fun, right? How many times this season have we watched this team just go out and play? How many times did we watch this team go out and score? And score repeatedly, time and time again, not letting up. Honestly, I mean, maybe twice, all season long. Maybe that's happened twice all season long. So today is the third time that we see Roma deliver this kind of performance. Although today, perhaps more than any other match, including Udinese, Sampdoria, and whatnot, and Braga, we are treated to a team that found its rhythm. And I think the fact that Claudio Ranieri was so hesitant to make any changes points to precisely that, to the fact that, oh my God, I found the rhythm in this team. The next game we're playing against Milan, so on the 29th, so there's time. Let's keep going. Why pull somebody out if this team is delivering? Why risk losing the momentum? And that's, if there is one thing that I loved about today, it's not that Roma gave me the hope that perhaps the situation is solved and whatnot, because that is much more complicated. But the fact that they just kept at it, and the same guys that started off so well stayed there until the very end of the match. So that speaks volumes of what Ranieri wants to achieve. Ranieri wanted to see a team dominate, and that's what he got today.
I would have to say too, this is also the first time where we see attacking football with continuity in not only output, but I would say also it just within the understanding of each other. I mean, again, those first 20 minutes, and you watch Salamakers.
Salamakers is the game changer, in my opinion. Like, he's single-handedly, because I do think that, for example, Stefan El Shaarawy was trying to basically undermine everything that Salamakers was trying to do. Like
that header, man.
Like that's so. Salamakers had like a 10 out of 10 performance, just because, I mean, he's a player right now who is, out of the blue. Perhaps that's what we were hoping when we got him in that deal for Tammy Abraham, was to get a player who is intelligent and who provides you with that edge, that feeling of, oh, okay, this guy can take care of himself. This guy can take care of both the defensive and offensive assignments. And today, he solves you the match. Today, he hands you this result on a silver platter. So I just wanted to mention him, because I do think that the change from Salik to Salamakers is the most significant one can make in this team at this particular moment in time.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've said time and time again, first off, 56 is my favorite number. Anybody who has the balls to wear that, you automatically have my respect. There's another Chievo Verona player who is the only other one I can recall. I don't even want to utter his name because he is the embodiment of Chievo Verona. But Salamakers, already he starts on the right foot because of that. When you add to that, not only does he wear my favorite number, I want to reiterate, Andy, do we remember? Because I've always had esteem for this guy, regardless of the number thing. And this is a guy who provides versatility. And he provides to you, as you said, intelligence. He is a guarantee from out wide. As far as an attacking asset goes, he is a guarantee. Everywhere he goes, he is able to provide some sort of concreteness in attack from out wide. Now, he was in a very odd position with Milan because of just the way they played when you had Pioli, as many players were. So he goes to Bologna, just absolutely shines under Thiago Motta. And this season, he has that injury, 10 minutes into his debut? Or no, it was his first start, right? Yeah, when he does
he gets his first appearance against Juventus as a substitute, and then as a starter against Genoa. After 20 minutes, I believe he was off with a fractured ankle that kept him out for 2.5 months.
Yes, and to show you the level of desperation, the week he returns to full training, I think less than 2 full weeks later, the guys returned to the starting formation, which again goes to show you Zeki Salik, feast or famine type of player, but certainly this season has not delivered. Salamakers, though, I couldn't agree with you more in terms of what he has provided, and just the difference When you look at him and Angelino, who, by the way, if you just want to talk of complementary pieces, I look at Salamakers on the right, Angelino on the left, perfect complement. And then in midfield, Kone, Paredes, the complement just in the middle of the pitch that you have, the cohesiveness, the harmony that you have with these guys playing together, I think is perfect and has been the thing that has been lacking for the entire season. And then attack as well. What you saw today from Dovbyk and Dybala, I don't know if we want to throw Al-Sharawi in there because he did have a couple of opportunities, but I see that the scoop of this beautiful of a pass from Salamakers, that El-Sharawi, who is unmarked, perhaps the weakest header that I've seen in some time. I don't know what the reasoning behind that should have been. I don't want to say any jokes. Both of his parents follow me on Twitter, so I want to be polite. But when you see the difference, but I said this in my post-match reaction. Man, football sometimes we like to overcomplicate it. We really do. We have all of these data points. You have these experts on Twitter. We have outlets giving. They can analyze how.
Are you about to give the
Roma
famous
score.
Massimiliano Allegri speech? Because wasn't he the one who was like, il calcio è semplice, cortomuso?
Yes, well, yes, and yeah, but you even got the accent spot on. Because one of my favorite of the entire country. But it's true though. I hate to sound like the old man or coming off as some deep thinker here, but we really do overcomplicate it. I mean, every single episode, after every single match, I put on this thing of all of the data, the XG, all of this other crap, and it's like, my gosh, because this is what Ranieri did. I mean, this is very simple. If you look right now, the best 11 players of Roma, I think all of us are agreeing the 11 we saw on the pitch today are probably the best 11. Maybe we could say El-Sharawi, and in his place, Baldanzi, Pellegrini. We can have that debate. At minimum, we're saying 10, yeah? And you put every single one of them in a position to thrive. Positions and roles that allows them to use their strengths. That covers as best as you can their weaknesses. And that's what they did. My God, it really is this simple. And I know that in the summer we speak of transfers and who we need to get here, who we need to bring in. This is something that we saw today. I think this is what everybody envisioned prior to the season, yeah? Now, in fairness, I think all of us are a bit bitter. It took 4 months for us to see football as we did today, but it came finally. Again, there is some bitterness to the extent of we really should have seen this more often and far earlier. I'm not saying 5 goals, but I am saying technically, tactically. But Andy, this is the recipe. There's no need to overcomplicate this. There's no need to over-rotate the team. There's no need for Ivan Juric to play this 7D chess match trying to explain to us like we are imbeciles as to why Mats Hummels is sitting, picking up splinters on the bench in his backside. There's no need for that. There is no need to try to do this weird sort of Zen thing as to why Angelino needs to be playing in the 3 in defense and why I need to bring in Nicolas Zalewski, despite everything you and I have seen with our eyes. Neither of us are blind and neither of us has been in a coma during Zalewski's time in recent months. So it's so simple sometimes. The 11 best guys that you have in your team, put them in positions to thrive. And my gosh, I mean, this is a recipe moving forward. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to have this discussion for at the back, 3 at the back. I mean, we have some of our patrons talking about tactically. How do we get Baldanzi? Just stop. Haven't you been tortured enough thus far this season?
Wasn't this the point that Ranieri made today with this lack of changes? You know, that was the idea to just give consistency, make it simple. Is it working for you? Great. I mean, how are Roma in a position where they can't take such a result for granted? No, you can't. Even when you're winning against Parma, you have to keep your foot on the gas at all times. Don't, because we've seen it in the past. You cannot start experimenting. You cannot. This team needs reassurances. This team needs simplicity. This team needs what works for them. What works for them right now is Leandro Paredes in the midfield, Mats Hummels starting in the defense, and Alexis Salmakers in the place of Zeki Salik. Those three players alter completely the way Roma functions as a
Yes.
team. We've seen it a few days ago when Hummels was out, when Paredes was out, when Salamakers was not at his best. We see what happens when those guys are out. So, in my opinion, if it's working, don't change it. You know that the next match is in a week. So why bother? Why bother? Why preoccupy yourself? If Because all season long, what we've struggled with is to find consistency. At first, as you say, it was Pisilli in the midfield with Kone, and then Pisilli out, and then Baldanzi in, and then Lefebvre with Kone, and then no Lefebvre. Now it's Paredes again. No, keep it simple. Are you getting the result you want? Are you winning in front of your home crowd? Are you destroying the opponent? Good. Keep going. Keep going, because how many times are we going to see this?
It's so true. But the other part of it is, again, it shouldn't have taken this long. It really shouldn't have. Again, I would say in the summer, I mean, if you were to just pick the 11 best of Roma, how different does the 11 then look than what we saw today? In my opinion, I don't think there's going to be that much variance. With what we saw today, though, I think that calls into question the roles for the remainder of the season, and maybe even further beyond that, of some guys. Clearly, some guys you have already mentioned, Lafay, Lorenzo Pellegrini being the obvious one as well, Cristante. But at this point, even having that discussion, because again, some of our patrons wanted to have that about what you do with Pellegrini. It's been so torturous this season. Do we really have to have debates over that? Can we enjoy this, and can we just agree that this is the best 11? It's very simple. As you said, against Milan, run it back. Run it back. I'm not. Who is changing a single thing from this team today? I don't care how many interviews.
You can't. No matter what happens next, because we know how Italian media get during Christmas. There's not going to be a lot of news, so the ones that are going to come out are going to be spicy. I remember last year was Bonucci to Roma right during the Christmas period. Yeah. So this year, I'm pretty sure that they're going to run with Pellegrini and Dybala out for sure, and you cannot let that affect you. You have to keep going. Milan, Lazio, who cares? Run these guys into the ground for all I care. But if it's working, you gotta have it, because today you win exactly because you are not trying to make up for something. You have your strongest guys out there.
Yes.
Pellegrini is a ghost. Good. Don't play him. Fine. Salamakers is doing what Zelik should be doing. Great. Have him out there. Dovbik back in the lineup. Paulo Dybala back in the lineup. Dybala is at the center of rumors. Is he gonna give you the answers? Good. Play him. If he's not focused, then don't. But if he's there, if he wants to play him. Paredes, Kone, it's the same thing. Like Mats Hummels hasn't played in the past 2 games. Is he still feverish? No. Okay, then he's our best defender. Have him out there. Why baby him up? This is a man who's won everything. Yeah, this is a man who played in the Champions League final a few months ago. Play him. That's simple.
You would think, too, by some of these discussions that some people are under the illusion Roma have this wealth of resources, or at least this wealth of options beyond the quality that they have within the 11, as if they have 2 or 3 other options. And I'm only bringing this up because I saw it in one of the articles you wrote. Somebody quote tweeted it and discussed like Baldanzi, I think it was, about oh my God, how is Baldanzi not starting? Because there was some transfer rumor of him going out on loan and his agent supposedly being upset with his lack of playing time. And there were a couple of people in the mentions, something to the extent of, well, oh my gosh, without poor Paulo Dybala has been this season, how could we? Listen, dude, what we saw today on their best days, Baldanzi may get to the point of Paulo Dybala. We can only hope and pray he gets to anywhere near that level someday. But right now, just stop. Please stop. Please stop. With how bad this season has been, do we really need to be having debates of why Baldanzi needs to be inserted into the starting 11 for Paulo Dybala? Stop. I've had enough. Okay.
I think,
I
but
like
I
to
no,
use
but
the,
I think in this case, it's the question is, oh, here's a guy who's 31 years old at the center of transfer rumors, can get tired easily. Meanwhile, here's this guy who it seemed again because Roma had caused so much confusion inside and outside, because inside the team they made a lot of
of
confusion in the
course.
terms of hierarchy. One day you have Pizzilli out there, the next day you have Baldanzi, the next day you have Lefe.
Yes.
Hermoso started, then stopped, then started again, then stopped. So fans obviously have different expectations, but I think even Ranieri right now explained it as simple as possible, which is I didn't want any drop in tension or focus. I wanted to have. I saw that
Yes.
the guys were doing fine, and I wanted to see the match end the way it started. Okay, so as manager, it's as simple as that. Because why tweak things in a team where even the smallest of tweaks can result in disaster, and we've seen it in the past. You take out one player and you lose the whole structure of the team, right? The moment Alexis Salmakers would have left the field today, I think would have been the moment that Roma stopped playing. I really do fear that, because he's
Yes.
that in that very moment in time, he's that player. He's the guy who's giving you the answers. It would be like taking J.R. Smith when he's on a hot streak in the Cavs in 2016, right? You have to keep him out there, keep him shooting. You can't just replace him with Iman Shumpert, who's gonna brick all those shots. Um,
Oh my
I know,
gosh.
John. I'm putting you in familiar territory, but the
Killing. Man, you throw strays to these
but
guys. My word.
happy
Happy
holidays,
holidays,
happy
Iman
holidays, Iman
Shumpert.
Shumpert. But that's the point: is it's working. Don't change it, because we've seen what happens to this team. This team is fragile. This team has so little confidence,
Very.
even against Como. Why does it happen that you give up 2 goals in the 90th minute, when it all seemed like, after the game against Como, all the players came out and said, well, we thought we could score in the final minutes. Well, it didn't happen. Right? They scored.
Right.
It's Como that scored. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Answer me. Why? Why is that? And that says a lot about this team, the sort of the mentality they have, the moment they're in. It's undeniable that these guys, as talented as they are, they don't have the goods in terms of mentality and focus to do well just yet. So they need games like this one where everything's clicking and they all work together and you don't change a single thing.
You are spot on. And you are completely right on this thing of their mentality being so fragile. I mean, even in the very brief window of the previous half week, Dovbek looks like somebody as if he made a quick visit to the house of Bangsball. Just the energy, the focus, the output. I mean, his movement today and against Sampdoria, you just look the guy as it is amazing just what the slightest bit of confidence can do to a player. And for some reason, that seems to sort of just accentuate itself far more Roma than other places. This is something we are used to. There's no need getting into, again, just how psychologically fragile this team has been ever since we've been doing this, but for decades. But what we saw today, I still think is something we shouldn't have to wait 4 months to see. The communication, the understanding between Dovbyk, Dybala, the compliment you have on the left and the right of Salamancas to Angelino, and then Paredes and Kone, it's mind blowing to me that it's 4 months. You wasted almost half a season for us to finally see something resembling strong, effective, high quality champagne. I mean, today was champagne football.
Yeah. Today was the team finally finding its rhythm and finally finding that confidence that is necessary to not give Parma an ounce of belief that they may turn this around, which is something that they didn't do in a lot of other games where supposedly they were leading or supposedly they were on the brink of breaking the result wide open, and then they would get punished time and time again.
Well, and two, they could have easily rested on their laurels at 2-0. Parma were never getting back into this thing. They were never at any point showing any will, desire, or even the ability to get back into this thing tonight. So Roma easily could have just saw this out 2-0. Nobody is really going to complain. It's a victory. It's a 2-0 victory. It gets you some momentum building up to the Milan match. So nobody's going to complain at that point whatsoever. But it is so nice to see, because again, it happens to us so often. Roma, they give this mercy instead of performing the coup de grace. They just allow themselves to take it easy on the opponent, despite having had it done to them time and time and time again, at least once or twice a season. And to see them adopt this mentality, at least for today, what was such a breath of fresh air. And now that brings us obviously to this match with Milan, which it's such a particular match because it's a big game. It's at San Siro. It's against Paulo Fonseca. It's also against a team, though, that had Roma not been so entirely shit to begin the season, Milan would be the team that everybody would be discussing. They would be the ones under the microscope. They have been so inconsistent. You have Paulo Fonseca having this tumultuous relationship with what many believed, and I think was almost unilaterally agreed upon, was the best left back in the world, in Theo Hernandez. You have him tactically making these bizarre decisions. You have him requesting Tammy Abraham in the final hours of the transfer window in a win after a summer in which Roma could not give Tammy Abraham away to anybody. It's been such a weird storyline happening at Milan. But again, Roma have given to them this get out of jail card because they have all of the attention onto them because of how terrible they've been this season. But had Roma just been slightly, just the tiniest bit of less crap, Milan would be the sole focus and talking point of the season thus far. And it's one of those things where I say it every single time. You could tell me Roma win or lose 4-0, and I can understand and be able to explain to you how it happens in both circumstances. But we'll get into this later in the week as we get closer to the match. But if they just replicate today, which again, I'm not saying score 5 goals. Nobody's going to expect that. Nobody is going to even expect half that amount of goals each and every time. I am speaking simply of mentality, character, the tactical fluidity, the technical, all of the tactical aspects, along with the mentality that we saw today against Parma. If they can show today against Milan, this team really they can go against really anybody.
Yes,
in Serie A. I would say the only team that is that maybe they
Atalanta.
Get swept aside by with ease.
Well, not even. But not
Atalanta.
even, because we saw what Roma did against Atalanta. They kept their pace. It was they got unlucky as always. But
But they've Andy, the level we saw today
Yeah.
has not been on this even against
No, no, no,
Sampdoria.
no, no. Tonight, no, no, no.
They bumped it up two
Today,
notches to
really, it's
Sampdoria.
sort of like perhaps the first. Maybe against Braga, it was also sort of like that same kind of intensity. But I do think that today is really a 10 out of 10 performance in terms of what
Yes.
you were supposed to do and the result that the team delivered. This is everything you wished to get this Sunday. Obviously, against Milan, it is completely different. Once again, we haven't won away
It
from
is.
home in 8 months. Um,
Oh, you said it.
we haven't done anything
Yes.
remotely good away from home since April. So let's just make that very, very clear. This team plays one way at home and plays another way away from home. Okay, and nothing is going to change my belief about that because so far I have no evidence that proves otherwise. So this team hasn't done enough to make me think that they can go out there against Milan on the 29th and play the same way they played today. I would like to believe that there will be that the enthusiasm that this match causes, and there is going to be a lot of enthusiasm because you have 1 week, a
Yes.
1 week break. Everybody's going to take it easy. It's Christmas holidays and stuff like that, so everybody's going to be cheerful about it. But I would like to believe that this enthusiasm will carry over into the next match. But then part of me knows better than that. Part of me knows that this is the team that also then, won against Braga and then went out and went to Como, you know, and got dominated in the second half, absolutely dominated by a Como that deserved to win. So, what am I supposed to say that would hint at my belief in this team? My belief in this team is that yes, they can be good. And yes, like tonight, well, not tonight, today, if they have those key players out there, they always have a chance against just about anybody. The problem is always, do they believe in that? Do they know that? Because if you look
Correct.
at what this team gave us in Como, is once again one of those completely anonymous, sterile, passive games that we saw so many of that it's quite depressing to think that it's the same team from the Olimpico to Como, completely different team. So perhaps the environment, perhaps the feeling that you are playing in a big place, in a big stadium with the bright lights on you, the pressure, kind of like when you went and played against Spurs. Perhaps that will make the difference. But as much as I would like to, I can't give these guys my confidence, my trust. I can't. They today they were brilliant. They did everything right. But what gives me the right to believe in them and believe that they will replicate this kind of performance, even against a Milan side that has been just as inconsistent as us, with Fonseca constantly on the hot seat to the point that Massimiliano Allegri has been
Yes.
repeatedly linked in the last few weeks. Basically, with every single game that Milan played, there was this condition: if they lose, Massimiliano Allegri is coming in. If they lose, Allegri is in. If they lose, so Milan are also in a bit of a mess. But Roma, we know, as good as they can be just as bad. So I would hope that perhaps the Christmas period will give them a bit of a spark, will fill them up with only good things and more hope and belief in the future. But I also, as always, my favorite saying, "Io conosco I miei polli." I know my chickens. I know them. I know them. I see them play. I feed them every day, and I know my chickens. I know what they'll do. I know better than to give myself hope, even in this holiday period.
Uh, you were born in the wrong time period. I mean, some of the things you say, it's just I I've heard them years.
From
97-year
your
old
nonna
nonna. Just
or your cousin Angelo
my
or whatever.
gosh, it's oh my goodness. All right, we will leave it there. We will get into the Milan match later in the week on Thursday. So enjoy, everyone. How nice! I know you are a supporter of these kickoff times. I am a supporter. The only reason I don't like them is I know some of our patrons They do not live in the most convenient places
But I
geographically
think
around the world, and
today
then they have to get up
the only
at
people
certain
suffering
times.
today were the people on the West Coast because that's still nighttime. Meanwhile,
Oh,
Australians, for example, today was what, maybe 10 o'clock in the evening, perfect time to throw in a game
yeah,
and
yeah.
go to
Well,
sleep.
uh,
Yes,
when it
and go to
goes
sleep
well,
happily.
yeah. I mean, if it goes the other way, yes, no sleep. But let's enjoy this. Let's enjoy this. This is what we all expected. So you can either be happy or, again, have a tad, tad pinch of bitterness because this should have been regular occurrences, not in terms of goal output, but in terms of performance. But enjoy this. We will again be back later in the week. So until then, thank you for listening. Ciao.